Good morning. I'm Rob Craig Coleman, a member of the worship arts team, and my pronouns are he and him. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, UUCR, and welcome to our in-person and virtual Sunday morning worship. Here at UUCR, we gather in an understanding and welcoming environment where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, work to build a committed and loving family-friendly community, and to help heal the world. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whoever you love, whatever your faith tradition, you are welcome here. If this is your first time with us, I would like to extend a special welcome to you. If you haven't already, please look at our webpage for more information about UUCR. Here you can find details about our church community, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and find contact information for Melissa Martin, our Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator. Now later in the service, we will collect our offering, and as is our spiritual tradition here, we share half of each week's offering with a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. We do this not because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need. And it is a simple yet powerful way for each of us to live out our mission commitment to heal the world by learning about and supporting the good works of charitable organizations and becoming more involved in our community. Our Share Their Plate recipient for the Sundays in January is Hamilton Garrett Music and Art Academy. There's a growing movement in churches across the country to find ways to make reparations for using music composed by enslaved African people because they were never compensated for their art. No royalties have ever been paid for a number of the spirituals and hymns we sing during our services. So as a small first step towards acknowledging this injustice, we have chosen Hamilton Garrett Music and Art Academy in Roxbury as our Share the Plate recipient this month. Our donation will be used to fund scholarships for their music program. Hamilton Garrett Music and Art Academy is a nonprofit organization affiliated with the historic Charles Street AME Church. It is committed to the development of Boston's next generation of innovative artists through the celebration and preservation of Black music. It provides high-quality formal education to the children and youth of Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. Please give generously to our Share the Plate offering to help fund scholarships at Hamilton Garrett Music and Art Academy and to support the mission of UUCR. Now today we are pleased to welcome into our service as our guest worship leader, the Reverend Heather Janulis. She is in her 8th year serving as the settled minister of the Winchester Unitarian Society in nearby Winchester. Previously, she served for 10 years as the associate minister of Cedar Lane UU Church. A native of New England, you will often find her walking by bodies of water with her dog Armand, or curled up at home with her kitten Beauvoir. We are very pleased to have you with us this morning, Heather. Thank you for being here to share in our worship and to lead us. On behalf of everyone involved in today's service, I want to thank you for being with us this morning, either physically or virtually. We believe that you belong here. We believe that you belong here maybe just for the next hour, though we hope it's for longer. You belong here. And we give thanks that you are joining us today.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Reading. We begin our service with words by Margaret Weiss. Come in. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possible. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new, others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now to this moment. Come, let us worship together.
Well, as we prepare to light our chalice this morning with Unitarian Universalists all around the globe, I invite you to call into your heart the flame you kindle this morning, the flame of truth, of community, of commitment to love and to justice. So as the Reverend Janulist lights our chalice, please join in our chalice extinguishing words, lighting words, found in your order of service. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. And each week we recite our children's affirmation as a reminder of the most important elements of who we are. So please join with me in reciting these words. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Now please rise in body or in spirit and sing together hymn number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We will sing it through 3 times.
I now invite the young people to come join me up front, or the young at heart. Good morning, everybody. Now, we haven't met before because this is my first time at your church. My name is Heather, and like Reverend Laura, I'm a minister, so you could call me Reverend Heather. And if I had the time, I would have each of you introduce yourselves and each of you introduce yourselves, but unfortunately we don't have time for that. So at the count of 3, I ask that everybody shout your name. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Wow. It's so wonderful to meet all of you. So like I said, I haven't been here before, but there's something that feels like home to me, because the song that we just sang, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, we sing that at my church, and it's one of my favorite songs. One thing I really like about this hymn is it reminds us of an important thing about being Unitarian Universalist, which is we welcome everybody, no matter the color of your skin, no matter who you love, no matter if you're old or you're young, no matter if you can't dance, no matter if you like Brussels sprouts for breakfast, we welcome everybody. But I have a question. I have a friend, and I'd like to invite him to church, and it's a lion. I'm not sure if a lion belongs in church. What do we know about lions? Can anybody tell me? Yes? Lions are hunters. Lions live in a jungle, not usually in suburban Boston. Yes?
When they roar, they're pretty loud.
When they roar, they're pretty loud. So, yes. And they're dangerous. So they live in a jungle. They're dangerous. They roar loudly. My guess is that a lion does not know how to light a chalice. My guess is that a lion doesn't know any of our hymns. Should we really invite a lion to church?
Not really.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, they probably wouldn't entirely fit in. So what do we do with when we say we welcome everybody, but we can't invite a lion? Yes? We still have to welcome the lion. We have to stick to our code. So this will be kind of a question for us all to consider. How to be welcoming while also making sure, say, the minister doesn't get eaten for lunch. One final thing to think about is sometimes we meet lions or things that we think are lions, but inside they are more like lambs. They are gentle and kind and soft and shy, and we just need to get to know them a little bit and find out that they're not scary at all. That's something for us to think about as we go to our RE classes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this time with me.
And so our children will go downstairs now for RE, and we will sing them out with the words in your order of service. We take this time during our service to light our candles of community, peace, and justice. We light our red candle of community to signify our interconnection. Wherever you are in time and space, newcomer or longtime member, here in the sanctuary or joining us remotely, we light this candle holding you in love. May this light welcome and hold you, reminding you that your presence is needed in this community. And as we light this candle, I invite you to speak aloud the name or names of people who are on your mind and in your heart today, to bring them fully into our space. We light our blue candle of peace for all the places worldwide where people live with the threat of war and violence. This week, particularly, we turn our eyes again to Ukraine as the weather grows cold and their utilities remain under attack. And we light our yellow candle of justice. May all people everywhere live their lives in freedom, and may we each do our part in the work for justice and liberation for all in our global community. As we recommit ourselves to the work of love and justice, may we each voice this commitment by saying, Amen.
I invite us into the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, great mystery some know by the name of God. As we pause, alone with what we carry in our hearts, joined by others seeking sanctuary, seeking clarity, seeking witness, seeking peace. In this space made sacred by the presence and attention of each of us in this moment, may we find the place of our groundedness, the center by which we may become renewed, the renewal by which we may gain in strength, the strength by which we may carry on and serve those in our care, in our circle of connection. Amid the harshness of the world, may we find rest. And in times of great fear and loneliness, may the embrace of this moment remain with us, as close as the next and nearest breath. We ask this in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Now, if you have a joy or a sorrow you would like to honor through lighting a silent candle, you're invited to come forward now and light a candle. Our reading this morning is The Guest House by Jalaluddin Rumi, translation by Coleman Barks. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
One of the gifts of the pandemic has been how Unitarian Universalist congregations have come to connect and collaborate more frequently. I'm delighted to be with you in worship this morning, and also delighted that Reverend Laura will be with the congregation I serve in late February. From the beginning of preparing for today, your community has offered me a tremendous welcome. I am grateful. And I promise that we will offer the same hospitality to Reverend Laura. I'm not surprised that your congregation has been so welcoming. Sometimes we Unitarian Universalists tie ourselves up in knots trying to find ways to articulate our faith. Whether it's referring to our elevator speeches or taking part in the current process of revisiting the principles, we often try to put into words that which is almost ineffable. Try to qualify what is more process than tangible. But besides an affirmation by the Reverend Meg Barnhouse, we are the one God, no hell church. For me, perhaps the most simple way to articulate Unitarian Universalism is we welcome all. Come, come, whoever you are. This is a simple statement, but longtime Unitarian Universalists know this is not easy. Opening our doors and our arms to all of humanity is a demanding spiritual practice. In a world that spends so much energy shutting doors, shunning the unfamiliar, and building walls between us, or at least promising to build walls at political rallies. As our universalism affirms that all begin and end and are held in love, if we are to practice divine living, it means leaving no one outside our own loving embrace. Almost 20 years ago, I began a parish internship as part of my preparation for ministry. Like any internship, my objective was to learn. But I learned a lesson during internship that transcended simply becoming more competent in the practice of ministry. It was a humbling lesson that moved me to question the authenticity of my own welcome. Here is the story. Early in my internship, I learned of an older man in the congregation who we will call Bill. Bill was beloved by his community, but to be honest, some of his behaviors made it hard to be in his company. Bill had a way of cornering people at coffee hour and going on long, rambling tangents, punctuated by excitement and sometimes anger. I didn't know if this was part of his life, but it sounded like he was someone struggling with the symptoms of bipolar disorder. His fellow congregants found ways to connect with Bill, but also to set some appropriate boundaries. The first time I met Bill was not at coffee hour, but in his hospital room. Sadly, he was facing the end of his life. He received a sobering cancer diagnosis. I companioned the settled minister when he had not his first meeting with Bill, but his last, offering his presence and the care of the congregation as best he could in one of Bill's final days. Not long after Bill's death, his family and church staff began planning his memorial. I don't remember many of Bill's family members being involved. I intuited some of the estrangement that can come when a loved one has mental illness. So it made sense for me, a virtual stranger to Bill, to participate. Perhaps it was my sense of Bill as an isolated soul that motivated me to do all that I could to make this a beautiful memorial service, a celebration of his worth and his dignity, some recognition he should have received in life. And, if I'm to be honest, this was also my first congregational memorial that I would take part in, and I wanted to do a good job. I was mindful that everything I did in internship was an indicator of whether I was really meant to be a minister or not. The day of Bill's memorial service arrived, and things were falling into place beautifully. The order of service was duplicated. The music director was practicing in the sanctuary. The tables in the fellowship hall were laden with refreshments prepared and donated by congregants. Then something unexpected happened. A woman I did not recognize arrived at the church. She was about an hour early and dressed in ratty clothes, so she couldn't be there for the memorial. As people buzzed about preparing for the service, she lingered in the fellowship hall. A church member, our social action chair, came over to me and said quietly, looking at the woman, "You should keep an eye on her. She's known to cause trouble downtown, panhandling for money, and if she has too much to drink, yelling at people." Suddenly, the whole service seemed to be at risk of disaster. It seemed unfair that Bill's memory that a stranger could sabotage his one and only celebration of life. It was almost time for the service to begin. Should I ask her to leave? With every minute that went by, I felt more and more anxious about her presence, and I couldn't decide what to do. Stuck in my indecision, there was no choice but to eventually go upstairs to begin the service. I hoped there would be some food left over when we came back down for the reception. Later in the service, there was a tremendously powerful moment. It was a moment that made my hopes for the service real, Bill's worth and dignity were affirmed, honored, and celebrated. But it was also a moment in which I learned so much about the spiritual practice of welcoming. Like many memorials, this service included a time where anyone who wished to do so could come forward and share a story about the deceased. One person who came forward to speak was the woman from the fellowship hall. I hadn't noticed that she had come upstairs for the service. As she approached the microphone, my fears of sabotage returned. Would we be subject to a long, drunken ramble in the middle of what had been a series of lovely, heartfelt remembrances? But no. This woman may be known for her troubling public behavior, but she was also Bill's friend. She spoke beautifully about how Bill would strike up a conversation with her, often being the only one of the few people to take time to actually talk to her downtown. They became friends. She enjoyed his humor, his intelligence, and kindness. Like the rest of us, she'll miss him. My appreciation for her witness of Bill and his spirit was tempered by my embarrassment. Here I am, striving to become an emissary of our faith by entering the ministry, and it was me who almost denied a good friend of the deceased simple hospitality. Come, come, whoever you are, but not the stranger, I guess, not the ones we cannot trust to act like us. Feeling his own embarrassment, the social justice leader and I reflected on the irony of the church's efforts to care for the homeless and the impulse in this context to deny a homeless person the shelter of our sanctuary and the care of our community as we mourned a mutual friend. On the surface, this lesson I learned was a lesson about not making assumptions. But in the years that followed, it also became a lesson about obstacles to spiritual growth, obstacles to practicing what we preach with integrity. I forget where I heard it. It might have even been an internet meme. But I once heard a piece of wisdom that stays with me. When you are having strong feelings about somebody else, those feelings originate with you, not with them. Yes, I was striving to help create a good memorial service for Bill, but I was also striving to prove, starting with myself, that I was a good minister and I had a right to be in this service. I was the one whose worth I doubted. Going a little deeper, you should know that less than a year after Bill's memorial, my mother would die from the ravages of alcoholism. Had they lived in the same city, my mother and Bill's friend might have been confused for each other in their age and appearance and strange and alienating behavior. Intellectually, I know that addiction is a disease, but emotionally? If bearing a child is like having your heart walk around outside your body, having a loved one succumb to addiction is like having your shame materialize into a monster. My internal conversation about this woman in the fellowship hall was, at heart, more about my unresolved feelings about my mother. Feelings I now know can get in the way when I encounter an older woman struggling with addiction. As you might imagine, this was not the last time I had a strong negative reaction to someone who was simply in my presence, not doing anything hurtful to me, just being. Nor was it the last time I allowed others to shape my understanding of who this person is beyond my own experience. On a good day, when I have some degree of self-awareness, I remember that piece of wisdom. When you're having strong feelings about someone else, these feelings originate with you, not with them. On an even better day, I have the courage to explore these feelings and own them and see what they can teach me about where I need to grow. I've come to understand this process of reaction, reflection, taking responsibility and evolution, the crucible of discomfort, or the way in which discomfort points towards where we need to learn and grow. Of course, this process does not always feel good. The choice of the word discomfort is intentional. Thankfully, the ancients lend us their encouragement. As we heard earlier from Rumi, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. This is a good segue into consideration of how the crucible of discomfort can be experienced by both individuals and communities. As I named with the children earlier in the service, we sing the hymn, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are," a Rumi poem set to music, often at the Winchester Unitarian Society. And I've frequently included Rumi's poem, "The Guest House," in services. Both speak profoundly about the power of spiritual and cultural welcome. And, as was recently brought to my attention, both are, in a way, problematic in a Unitarian Universalist context. I am grateful to my colleagues, the Reverends Hanwa Hamami and Sana Saeed, both Muslim Unitarian Universalist ministers, for their open letter titled, "About Us, Without Us." Saeed and Hamami write, "The openness of Unitarian Universalism and its theologies is incredibly healing and welcoming. However, this spaciousness of what is considered the sources of our living tradition can also be deeply harmful if not engaged with intention, accountability, and perhaps most of all, humility. Without these three spiritual orientations, Unitarian Universalists' approach to our sources can and do recreate the colonization and appropriation of cultures embodied by white supremacy. Specifically, they challenge the selection and use of texts divorced from their Islamic context. Speaking to the hymn, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are," they recognize that the hymn fails to include the theologically essential words, "Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times." These omitted words highlight the merciful nature of Allah, central to Islamic theologies, and the acknowledgement that it is human nature to make mistakes, including ones that cause harm. Outside of their open letter, I have also read concerns about Coleman Barks as a translator of Rumi's poems, as Barks was raised Presbyterian, does not know Persian, and whose selection suggests that Rumi is a standalone mystic, not a faithful Muslim, speaking the spiritual language of his tradition. If we Unitarian Universalists affirm a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, shouldn't our welcoming of Islamic texts and ideas come from more credible sources? Hamami and Saeed's letter warrants a service unto itself. Short of that, I share one of their suggested antidotes to inclusion of Islamic sources in ways that create harm. These UU leaders call on us to build ongoing relationships with Muslim communities and individuals beyond the reactionary solidarity that follows traumatic policies or attacks. Or as I would put it, authentic sharing begins with authentic relationship. If you're like me, Saeed and Hamami's critique of Unitarian Universalist practice makes you uncomfortable. But here is where I and we have a choice. Akin to the phenomenon of white fragility, we can refute and challenge the critique. We can testify to the goodness of our intentions and conclude that that is enough. Or we can remember that when we're having strong feelings about someone else, those feelings originate with us, not with them. After we react, we can choose to reflect, to take responsibility, and to evolve, authentically grateful that the one understood as the other has had the courtesy and the courage to name the places where our espoused values and behaviors are not always in alignment. We have this choice as individuals whenever we encounter someone we experience as the other, whenever their way of being, or should they choose to do so, their gift of providing education threatens to touch our deepest pain or our carefully crafted understanding of ourselves. Like the Reading Congregation this month, the Winchester Unitarian Society is exploring the path of finding our center. Let us remember that this path is not always smooth or pleasant, There'll be times when we have the courage to own our resistance when it emerges, and times when we do not. But thankfully, it is not only Islam, but our own tradition that reminds us that it is human nature to make mistakes, including ones that cause harm. And thankfully, life will forever provide us and the communities to which we belong opportunities to engage with the crucible of discomfort in ways that are productive and life-giving, and sometimes even justice-making. When we find ourselves in that uncomfortable place, may we remember that we are not alone, and may we find the courage to seek change within before we demand change beyond. May it be so. Amen.
Our congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put your gift in the collection plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you may make a gift online or send a check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to our Share the Plate offering to support Hamilton Garrett Music and Art Academy and the mission of UUCR. If this is your first time with us, your presence is gift enough, and we thank all.
Happy New Year. I hope that the start of 2023 has been a gentle one for you. The beginning of the new year feels like a good time to welcome new friends and to welcome back those who have been part of this beloved community for some time. I love to highlight and share details about our congregational life with folks, aspects that include the various ministries of our faith community and the umbrella under which we live our mission to nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal the world. Outside of our sanctuary, our electronic newsletter serves as our primary means of communication about our congregational life. In our weekly update this week, I highlighted all of the places that you can find vital church information, including links to our website and social media and emails for our staff. You can also find that information in your order of service today. This week in our congregational life, Our virtual social crafty fun drop-in happens on Zoom tomorrow evening from 7 to 9 p.m., as well as our Buddhist meditation group in person or via Zoom at 7:15. Tuesday evening, the UU Urban Ministry offers an online community conversation called Resolving to Do Better, Banks and Black-Owned Businesses. See our resource guide for those links. Wednesday brings us 2 online opportunities with Nancy Nienhaus, facilitating our Liberal Ladies Gathering at 10:30 a.m. and Conversations with Nancy at 1. And our Reading PFLAG group meets this Thursday. For today, those in person are encouraged to stop by our receiving line to connect with our guest minister and your staff and lay leaders. Those with us online this morning are invited to join our Zoom social hour hosted by AJ Heidkamp. Thank you, AJ. Thank you all for being a vital part of our congregational life. Now, please join us in body or in spirit for the closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
So I invite Reverend Janulis to our chalice, and also wish to thank you for being with us. And on behalf of all of us, I say that thank you for your words and for your wisdom and your presence. And so as she extinguishes our chalice, please join in our chalice extinguishing words found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Mindful of our highest aspirations, bound by common faith and purpose, and yet beginning with ourselves as we are, let us move forward together in the unending quest for dignity, justice, and love. Amen.